back on oh, he crashed, rolling over! Crashed into a power car, rolling over, and the wheels are spinning. Let's see if he's able to get out of that vehicle. Right now, you can see that front windshield smashed through there.
You're driving down a busy Los Angeles street when sirens echo behind you, growing louder, closer, faster. But this time, they're not coming for you. They're chasing a desperate suspect tearing through the San Fernando Valley on 3 tires, fighting for freedom, fighting against fate. What happens next is a shocking reminder of how one reckless choice can flip an entire life upside down, literally. The afternoon sun baked the streets of Van Nuys, casting long shadows across the boulevard. Everything seemed normal: cars waiting at red lights, people stepping out of corner stores, traffic flowing as usual. Then, out of nowhere, came the sound that every Los Angeles resident knows too well: the distant roar of a helicopter and the wail of approaching sirens. Overhead, Air 7 HD began to circle. Below, an SUV was darting between lanes, its front tire shredding, sparks flying beneath the fender. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary vehicle, but the behavior told another story. The driver wasn't just speeding, he was running from something. LAPD patrol units trailed behind, lights flashing, sirens screaming as the suspect pushed his SUV to the limit. He was on the wrong side of the road now, straddling the yellow lines, forcing oncoming drivers to swerve in panic. One wrong move could mean disaster, but what the suspect didn't know, his escape route was already doomed. The front tire that kept him running was seconds away from ripping apart. As Air 7's camera zoomed in, the situation grew more dangerous. The suspect swerved through traffic at nearly 50 miles per hour, ignoring red lights, ignoring every rule of the road. The front left tire was almost gone, shredded rubber flapping violently with each rotation. The reporter above described it perfectly. That front left tire is on borrowed time. Desperation filled every turn he took.
He cut through a 7-Eleven parking lot, bounced over curbs, and swung back onto Van Nuys Boulevard, trying to outsmart the patrol cars behind him.
Police helicopters shadowed him from above, ready to call out every turn, every move. Officers below had already attempted spike strips, thin bands of metal designed to puncture tires, and one of them had done its job. The SUV was now limping through the city on 3 wheels. The chase wound through Van Nuys like a snake, unpredictable and dangerous. Every few blocks, the driver made another random turn, maybe hoping to lose sight of the police in the maze of narrow streets. But the officers didn't back off. They stayed coordinated, calculating, patient. They knew that as long as the suspect stayed behind the wheel, the risk to innocent people remained high. Then suddenly, the suspect slowed, not because he wanted to stop, but because something catastrophic was about to happen. The shredded tire finally gave up. The SUV started wobbling. Its frame leaned heavily to one side, and every turn became a gamble between control and chaos. Yet, the driver kept pushing. He must have believed he could still make it, still find a way out. But physics doesn't bend for desperation. As he turned onto Calvert Street, the back of the SUV fishtailed. Then, in a split second, it struck a parked car. The impact wasn't at a high speed, but it didn't matter. The vehicle's weight shifted violently. The damaged wheel dug into the asphalt, and the SUV began to roll. Once, twice, metal scraping, glass shattering until it landed on its passenger side. Dust and debris clouded the air. The helicopter camera captured the terrifying moment, the car still rocking slightly, its wheels spinning helplessly in the air. Inside, silence. No one moved. For a moment, time froze over the San Fernando Valley. The reporter's voice dropped to a hush, his tone suddenly cautious. "It does not appear that we can see any movement right now," he said softly. Below, officers rushed toward the overturned SUV, weapons drawn, uncertain what they would find. Was the suspect still alive? Or had the chase just ended in tragedy? As officers surrounded the wreck, they called for an ambulance. The driver was believed to be armed, and no one wanted to take a chance. Flashlights pierced through the broken windshield. A few moments later, 2 officers leaned into the crushed passenger side and began pulling someone out. The suspect's limp body slid into the light, motionless at first, then slightly twitching. He was alive, but barely. The crash had thrown him sideways, possibly ejecting him through part of the windshield. His head dangled awkwardly, and one of his legs appeared twisted under his body. He wasn't fighting anymore. He wasn't running. He was broken, silent, and surrounded by the very people he had tried to escape. Paramedics were on the way, but the scene had shifted from adrenaline to somberness. The officers who moments ago were chasing now stood still, their faces lit by flashing red and blue lights, waiting for the ambulance to arrive. The helicopter zoomed out, showing the full picture: a quiet street, a flipped SUV, and a group of officers kneeling beside a man who had gambled everything and lost. But the real mystery still lingered. Why did he run in the first place? In the hours that followed, LAPD confirmed that the driver was believed to be armed, but the exact reason for the pursuit was still unclear. No passengers were found. He was alone, just one man against the city, against gravity, and against time. The pursuit had lasted less than 10 minutes, but those 10 minutes captured everything about desperation and consequence. From the start, the driver's odds were zero. The spike strip had sealed his fate. Every wrong turn, every risky swerve, every red light, they weren't acts of freedom. They were steps toward the inevitable. The crash was not a surprise. It was the final chapter of a decision written long before the first tire shredded. As Air 7's broadcast replayed the footage, viewers could see it frame by frame: the suspect turning, the SUV tipping, the slow-motion roll, and the officers rushing in. It wasn't Hollywood fiction. It wasn't a movie. It was real life, raw and unforgiving, and it left everyone watching with one haunting question: was it worth it? No one truly wins in a police chase. For every thrilling minute of speed and defiance, there's a devastating cost waiting at the end. Property is destroyed, innocent lives are endangered, and sometimes the suspect, whether guilty, afraid, or simply reckless, loses everything. The San Fernando Valley chase proved that again. The driver survived the crash, but his freedom ended where his SUV flipped. The same tire that kept him moving was the one that betrayed him. The same road he used to flee became the stage of his downfall. As the camera panned over the wreck, viewers saw not just a chase, but a metaphor how fast choices can spiral out of control. One wrong move, one panicked decision, and life can literally turn upside down. The reporter's closing words from the helicopter were simple but heavy with meaning. That will do it for our coverage from Air 7 after a wild crash ending to this pursuit. Behind those calm words was a story of chaos, adrenaline, and consequence. But imagine this: what if just one choice had been different? If that man had pulled over instead of running, if he had trusted the system instead of speed, if he had seen the flashing lights not as enemies but as warnings, this story would have ended very differently. There would have been no rollover, no broken glass, no broken bones. Just accountability and a second chance to make things right. Instead, fear took the wheel, and fear never drives straight. The Los Angeles police chase that afternoon wasn't unique. Hundreds like it happen every year, some end quietly, others in disaster. But every single one begins the same way, with a decision to run. And behind that decision, there's always a reason: guilt, panic, pride, or desperation. Maybe he thought he could outrun the police. Maybe he thought he could disappear into the city's endless sprawl. But in Los Angeles, where the skies are filled with cameras and helicopters track every move, there's nowhere to hide. The city watches. The city remembers. And as the camera zoomed out one last time, a powerful image remained: the wrecked SUV, still smoking, surrounded by flashing lights. That moment wasn't just the end of a chase. It was the end of control, the end of illusion, the end of denial. No one could look at that scene and not feel the weight of consequence. Viewers at home felt a mix of awe and sadness. Awe at the spectacle of a live pursuit, sadness at the inevitable end. But maybe deep down, that sadness carries a purpose. Because when people see what happens in those final moments, the twisted metal, the paramedics rushing, the silence after the chaos, maybe it plants a seed. Maybe someone watching will remember that the next time they're tempted to run, to avoid accountability, or to let fear decide their actions. The real lesson from that day isn't about police tactics or helicopter angles. It's about choice. Every chase begins with one and ends when there are no choices left. In the quiet aftermath, officers remained at the scene, taking photographs, marking tire tracks, and clearing the debris. The ambulance finally left, carrying the injured driver to the hospital. The reporter signed off. The sirens faded. The city moved on, as it always does. But for everyone who watched and for the man inside that SUV, nothing would ever be the same. And here's the haunting truth. Sometimes the thing we run from is nowhere near as dangerous as the way we run from it. If this story made you feel the tension, the chaos, or the weight of that final crash, take a second to reflect not on the chase, but on the choices. Because every decision, no matter how small, can change everything in an instant. Stay aware. Stay calm, stay safe. And if you want to see more real stories that reveal the truth behind the chaos, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video.